a country with big ambitions to be East Africa's powerhouse economy and, as we see in Somalia, to be a dominant regional player. And yet Kenya is also a nation with deep-seated problems. Its political culture disfigured by violence and tribalism, corruption ingrained, and poverty deep-rooted. My guest today is Deputy Prime Minister and presidential candidate Musalia Mudavadi. Which version of Kenya will prevail as the country prepares for national elections next spring? Musalia Mudavadi, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you very much.
I must begin, I think, with events in Somalia, because over the last few days there have been major developments involving Kenyan troops, amphibious landings in the port of Kismayo. Are you sure that the Kenyan people are entirely behind this major commitment Kenya is now making in Somalia?
Yes, they are, absolutely. They are fully behind the Kenya Defense Forces. Because we have lived with an unstable Somalia for a very long time. And what has been happening in the region is that we've been starting to see incursions into Kenya where the Al-Shabaab movement has been...
That is the militant Islamist force inside Somalia.
Precisely. They've been trying to destabilize Kenya. But the Kenyan forces have gone there, and we are all behind them. The Kenyan people are behind what they're doing, and we believe that it is good for the region.
But do you not think that the more Kenya commits to this fight against Al-Shabaab inside Somalia, the greater the risk that Al-Shabaab will try to bring the violence to Kenyans inside your own country?
There is that risk, but I think this is a situation where you do not want terrorists to become the dominant force and to run affairs in the region and indeed in Kenya.
But in the last few weeks and months we have seen grenade attacks on churches and other public places. We saw an attack on a Sunday school just a few days ago which left at least one child dead. And I'm just wondering if this violence spreads inside your country, whether people are going to ask whether it was wise for the government to commit to such a major intervention beyond the border.
I think we've got to appreciate that Kenya is not there alone. Kenya is there under the AMISOM arrangement. Kenya is there with other African Union troops. So the international community is behind this particular intervention.
Sure, but now it seems Kenya's role is dominant. And you probably remember the words of Colin Powell. It was said by him in the middle of a very different dispute in the Middle East, but he said, if you go in, there is this philosophy, you break it, you own it. And if you now have thousands of troops inside Somalia, and if, as we have seen, that in the course of taking Kismayo and of launching attacks by air and sea on Kismayo, you have killed civilians, you are going to now have to convince Somalians that Kenya is a force for good in that country. And that means the commitment could go on and on and on.
True, but I would like to say that Kenya's intervention is very well measured. Kenya has made a difference by being part of the AMISOM troops, because since they came in, there has been significant success in dealing with the Al-Shabaab menace. If you look at what has happened in Somalia, they've just gone through an election. They have a new president. This was not possible previously for them to be able to conduct an election where they now have a parliament that is beginning to function.
And Al-Shabaab hasn't gone away.
No,
the likelihood is that they will mount an insurgency campaign now from the bush rather than from the towns that they used to hold. And that actually could be very much more damaging both for your troops and for many civilians inside the country.
There's that risk, but I think it would be worse if we were to lay back and withdraw, or if we were to just let things go as they have been going. Because remember, Somalia's case has been a case that has not received sufficient international attention since Siad Barre actually left that country. Now,
so just to be clear, Deputy Prime Minister, because we've got a lot to talk about, including the internal situation in your country, but just to be clear about this, as you look at Somalia today, Kenya's military and indeed economic commitment to that deployment is open-ended, is it? It's indefinite.
It is indefinite, and one of the things that we may want to put across here is that we would like the international community to play a more aggressive role. We've seen positive moves through the United Nations resolutions. We've seen their support to the AMISOM troops. That is going to mitigate the impact this intervention would have on the Kenyan people. And I believe that if we want to find a lasting solution, we should, while Kenya is intervening or is at the forefront, we should actually make sure that the international attention remains focused on Somalia.
Final thought about Somalia. I've talked about the danger that Al-Shabaab might try to bring the violence increasingly to your own country and your own people. It's not just about Al-Shabaab operatives trying to cross the border from Somalia. It's also about tensions within Kenyan society itself. For a start, you have hundreds of thousands of Somali refugees who are now resident in your country, but you also have a very significant Muslim population, some of whom appear to be increasingly radicalized. And they may become more radicalized as a result of what they see your troops doing inside Somalia.
Well, I hope we really don't get to that extreme position. We have seen some unfortunate incidents, apparently. But let me say that the Kenyan people are very resilient. And by and large, I can confidently say that the Muslims in Kenya are very, very clear that this is not about a religious battle. We are seeing those kind of attempts to try and turn it into some religious conflict. But the Kenyan Muslim is very firm, very clear that the issue in Somalia is not about religion. It is about terrorism.
Well, very calm, very clear, you say, but you must be aware of the tensions in cities like Mombasa. Mombasa, probably the most active place for Islamist preachers in your country, and we've got lawyers, for example, Hussein Khalid, a lawyer in Mombasa who works in the human rights community, saying that, quote, jihad is gaining credence amongst the youth in the city.
It would be very unfortunate, but I can tell you that our security agencies are very clear, and they're very firm to make sure that we don't get to that level. This should not escalate to the level where it's seen as a religious battle. I am confident that ultimately reason will prevail, as it has been for the time being, in the sense that any attempts to try and drive this on a religious basis, there's been a lot of restraint by both the Christians and indeed the Muslims.
People inside your country and maybe outside too might be more convinced of your message that reason will prevail if it were not for the fact that, frankly, internal tensions are rising across Kenya, leaving aside the issue of Somalia and the issue of Muslim feeling inside your country. More generally, there is a feeling that over the last year we have seen a significant rise in intercommunal tension and violence as well, and your government appears incapable of calming things down.
That is not true. I think what has happened in Kenya is very significant from the positive angle. And I'm not just saying it because I am a Kenyan in this case. I want to be able to point out that Kenya has successfully got a new constitution. Kenya is preparing for a general election. And we have not seen what you would call these extreme national tensions.
Yes, we have. What about the Tana River basin? What about the fact mass graves have been discovered? What about the fact that villages have been razed to the ground and we have seen tribal disputes escalate to the point where we've had massacres?
I think that let's look at Tana River as an unfortunate incident, but it is not running across the entire country. And in any case, what has happened in Tana River was quickly quelled by the security agencies.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we had villages razed to the ground. We have had women and children murdered, and we've had allegations that local politicians and police either incited the violence or stood by and let it happen.
But equally, the authorities were able to investigate, and some of the people who could have been behind this are likely to face charges. So I want to say that the intervention has been quite formidable, has been fairly timely, and apart from what has happened in Tana River, there are no other serious cases of conflict in other parts of the country.
Well, you know as well as I do that not just in Tana River, but other instances too, over the last few months, we've had senior politicians, including members of the government, who have been accused of inciting intercommunal violence. This goes beyond Tana River, and it seems there is a political culture at work in your country which allows politicians to indulge in this sort of tribal and intercommunal infighting.
That is the culture that is being eliminated now. I think there's some...
With all due respect, it is not being eliminated. Human Rights Watch, in a very recent report, say for decades, Kenyan police have failed to investigate politicians implicated in serious cases of communal political violence.
Politicians are facing charges today.
Yeah, I know they are, but there are many other politicians still indulging in the same activity.
No, we have to go by the rule of law. Those who have been found and where there's sufficient evidence have gone to court. And this include government ministers.
Why is it that government ministers, colleagues of yours, whom you've sat around the cabinet table with, are prepared to indulge in this sort of intercommunal tension?
I think those are essentially people who don't have a serious agenda. And I think when we have an independent director of public prosecutions charging them, this is going to be a deterrent against anybody else who wants to promote language that would incite the Kenyan people. So I think there's some positivity here, that a message is being sent to Kenya's political society that you cannot continue in the traditional way.
What sort of message do you think it sends that two of the most senior politicians in your country now face trial before the International Criminal Court in The Hague, facing very serious charges of involvement in crimes against humanity?
What I would say is that it's unfortunate, and the issue about politicians in Kenya facing trial in the international community, let me put it this way. There's a sense of national guilt. I mean, the Kenyan people, the Kenyan nation, if we were to go back into the election process and post-election violence of 2007-2008, there's a sense of national guilt. We went wrong as a nation.
But I suppose the most damning thing is the International Criminal Court clearly believes that Kenya's own judicial system is not capable of delivering justice for what happened after the 2007 election.
That was then, but I can tell you right now, under the auspices of the new constitution, there's a major adjustment taking place in Kenya's judiciary. We have a new Chief Justice. The process of vetting judges is happening. About 9 of the judges have not been able to go through the vetting process. And we are seeing major reforms in Kenya's judiciary. And therefore, whereas there are cases in the ICC, I can tell you very confidently that Kenya's judicial system is beginning to see a turn for the better.
Well, I can tell you very confidently that Uhuru Kenyatta, who is one of the 2 senior politicians I'm referring to who face these charges and trial in The Hague, Uhuru Kenyatta currently seems to command more than 20% support in polls looking forward to the presidential election of next spring. You, for example, seem to be at around 8% in the polls. What does it say that a man like Uhuru Kenyatta, who has very serious charges hanging over his head, appears to be significantly popular still with the people of your country?
Well, this is the interesting thing about Kenya's Kenya society. But I can say this, the popularity issue may be something else, and this will really be determined at the point of the vote. But what I can tell you is that the Kenyans are very clear that we are not going to retrogress into any violent situation as we get to the election. At the same time, I want to say that we want the Kenyan people and the international community to appreciate that there are very positive changes that have taken place in Kenya, and the judicial process is ready to face any challenge that now may arise.
Yeah, you talk about the judicial process. It should be said Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, denies all of the allegations he faces in The Hague, but nonetheless, I think it's true to say of your country generally and its politics that the people are now extraordinarily cynical about the way politicians behave inside Kenya. You represent a political establishment which the people no longer find credible. You agree with that?
No, I do not agree. I think the Kenyan people have a chance come March next year to make the change they desire.
But you don't really represent change. I mean, it's actually very difficult to see what you do represent. You were a great ally of Odinga in '07. Now you're one of Odinga's fiercest critics. You claim that he's been running an anti-democratic conspiracy. His people, who used to be friends of yours, now describe you as a freeloader whose credibility is non-existent and who represents everything that's wrong with the economic, legal and political life of this country. It seems you are all scrapping for power without an ounce of sort of ideological conviction between you.
No, I think there's I'm very different. I want to speak for myself. I don't want to speak for the other candidates. But I can tell you very clearly that Kenya is at the brink of a major transition. We have a new constitution. We have a president who is not going to be on the ballot. And Kenyans have an opportunity to make a choice. Now, I offer myself forward. I put myself forward to the people of Kenya as somebody who is non-polarizing, somebody who is ready to implement the new constitution. And I am confident that I'll be elected on that basis.
On this question of the runners and riders in the presidential election, there are a host of candidates currently with their names put forward, one of whom is you. Now, if Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto have to proceed toward trial in The Hague, there is some discussion about whether it would be wise for the opposition, the different opposition candidates and parties, to come up with one key presidential candidate they could unite around to challenge Raila Odinga. Do you believe that is what should happen?
I think Kenyans, the basis of any coalition or the basis of anybody coming together, from the party that I represent, I want to say very clearly that we are not coming together simply to defeat somebody else. I think we have to be clear first that there is sufficient concurrence in terms of the policy orientation. We would want to look at, if you're getting into partnership with anybody, what do they think about the economy? Is there sufficient convergence on the issues around the economy? Is there sufficient convergence on other policy areas that are of critical importance to the Kenyan people? That should be the basis of any union.
So no deals? No deals between you, Kenyatta or Ruto, or any of the other presidential candidates to pool your resources and your votes in a battle against Odinga?
Right now, there are no deals that we are moving in. I think we are all competing. We would like everybody to have their opportunity, and I am focused on the basis that I must win the hearts of the Kenyan people.
You talk about the economy. I've been looking at some interesting polling evidence which tells me that when Kenyans are asked what the most important issues, problems and challenges are facing the country, they put number one, unemployment, and of course that reflects the fact there is still massive poverty and economic struggle in your country. Number two, they put corruption and a feeling that politics is corroded by corruption. Now, can you explain to me, as a member of the government and a long-standing MP, why the Parliament has just voted through a massive revamp of the Parliament building itself, which involves the spending, and this is almost unbelievable, the spending of $3,000 for new chairs, high-tech new chairs with computers on board for every parliamentarian. There are 350 or so of these chairs. It's going to cost a huge amount of money and reflects the fact that, according to many Kenyans, politicians are simply feeding at the trough.
Well, I don't think that that is exactly accurate. We've got to look at it from a different perspective. Parliament has been revamped. It has been revamped for the first time. It's been expanded to accommodate more parliamentarians based on what is going to happen in the new constitution. And what has been put in there, these materials are local materials. And at the same time...
I'm sorry. Deputy PM, you cannot tell me that local materials add up to chairs in the new Parliament costing $3,000. One of your colleagues, a fellow MP, John Mbadi, he says it's completely ridiculous that MPs would sit on seats that by any standards could put up a small house. for someone in Kenya?
I think
Politicians are out of touch.
this is the Kenyan National Assembly. They have put it up, and the costing, as you put it, is such that it may reflect a situation where it looks bad, but by and large,
well, not only does it look bad, it is bad. I mean, this is a country which actually is going through enormous economic struggle, and MPs are famed around the world for being some of the best paid in the entire world. Their overall package, if you include expenses and all sorts of other add-ons, comes to well over $150,000 a year. You as a minister draw even more than that. It is simply unacceptable to most Kenyans the way politicians in your country behave.
I think there's a change that is not coming out. One, politicians will not be able to determine their remuneration anymore. We've gone beyond that. We've reached a stage where Kenya now, for any public official, and this includes the Member of Parliament, you have a commission, a constitutional commission, that will harmonize all aspects about the remuneration packages, the earnings of public officers, and this includes members of parliament. So the whole notion that members of parliament are setting up packs for themselves is now gone.
What we see, according to the latest World Bank report, is that Kenya's economy, in their view, is underperforming in East Africa. They say that if they look across the region, Kenya has more import restrictions than many neighbouring countries, and that yes, you've got growth of 5%, but they say given the potential of the country, it should be 7, 8, 9%, and it should match those of the really fastest growing countries like Angola, Mozambique, but you're just not doing it.
I think there's something you've got wrong there. I don't think Kenya has got the highest number of import restrictions.
Not the highest, but it's an economy which is not free in the way the World Bank would like to see it free.
No. I think Kenya is the most liberal of the economies in the region. And I can talk very confidently on this one because I served as a Minister for Finance, and I know in terms of opening up for trade and all aspects about the import tariffs, Kenya is more liberal than the other countries in the region.
Why then, if that's the case and you're so confident about the economic base, why is it that so many people are worried that given the discovery of oil in Kenya now and your president talking about the major breakthrough it represents for the economy, why is it so many people are worried that that resource bonus that you now have could well be wasted?
I think those are pessimists about the Kenyan situation. We are very clear that any mineral resource that is discovered will be utilized positively for the Kenyan people. And we don't have to invent a wheel here. I'm clear that there are countries like Norway who have got very good policies on the utilization of their natural resource, and there are also other countries that have not done so well. And I do not want to mention any of the names.
No, but they tend to be countries where corruption remains endemic and where a small elite still dominates the economy. And if one looks at Kenya today, that is still the truth in Kenya.
I think there's a positive aspect here. Kenya we are not going to extract this oil immediately. That is one thing. It's been discovered. But I can tell you very confidently that we are working on policy positions that will make sure that any natural resource that is discovered in Kenya will be for the good of the country and will not just benefit a few people. This is something that we are working on, and Parliament is going to legislate on some of these issues very shortly. And with that, we are sure we're going to safeguard that what we discover or what we are able to get in our country will not be misused.
All right. Well, we will talk again, I hope, in a few years and see if that comes true. But for now, Musalia Mudavadi, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you.